While I was in the ICU after a car accident, my neighbor told everyone I had died, then started moving his furniture into my house. My cousin even helped him. When I walked back through the front door alive and well, they both turned white. Police charged them with breaking and entering, fraud and theft, and the look on their faces as they were hauled away screaming, "But we thought she was dead," will stay with me forever. I'm a 52-year-old woman from just outside Springfield, Missouri. I live alone in a small house I bought after my divorce 15 years ago. It's nothing fancy, just an old ranch-style house with a big oak tree out front. It's been my safe place. My home. At least, it used to feel that way. My neighbor Ray Mullins is a piece of work. He's about 55, single, lives alone in the house across the street. Always a little too nosy for my liking. He would pop over whenever I was outside, always asking about what I was doing, where I was going, who was visiting me. I never gave him too much to work with. Smiled, answered politely, and went back inside. That's how I thought you handled nosy people. With distance, but not drama. Turns out, that politeness came back to bite me hard. One Thursday night, last September, I ran out to grab groceries. About 5 minutes from my house, I got T-boned at an intersection by a drunk driver in a big old pickup truck. I don't remember the crash. Just bright lights, the sound of glass shattering, and then nothing. I woke up in Cox South Hospital's ICU 3 days later. Tubes down my throat, monitors beeping everywhere. My ribs were broken. My lung was punctured. My left collarbone was fractured. I couldn't even sit up without help. The nurses told me it was a miracle I survived. They kept saying how lucky I was to even be awake. I stayed there for almost 2 full weeks. My cousin, Ben, texted a few times, said he was praying for me. I figured he was busy with work and life and didn't expect him to visit. I didn't really expect anything. When you're in that much pain, you focus on breathing and surviving, not on who's showing up. Finally, after a lot of physical therapy and paperwork, they let me go home. A cab dropped me off out front. I still had a hospital bracelet on my wrist. I remember standing there for a second because something felt wrong. My driveway wasn't empty. There was a U-Haul truck sitting there, and not just parked. The back was open, and 2 men were carrying furniture out of my front door. It took me a second to realize what I was seeing. One of the men was Ray. The other was Ben. My own blood. Ray was carrying my coffee table. My coffee table I bought back when I first moved in, scratched and scuffed from years of dogs running around it. Ben was carrying my TV, my nice flat-screen TV I bought after my promotion 3 years ago. I stood there, stunned. I must have looked half dead, wearing hospital-issue sweats, face pale, hair still messy. I yelled, as much as I could with my cracked ribs, "What are you doing?" Both of them dropped what they were carrying. The coffee table hit the porch with a loud crack. The TV smashed on the edge of the steps, screen spider webbing instantly. Ray looked like he'd seen a ghost. Ben looked like he wanted to throw up. His mouth just hung open. Finally, Ben said, "We thought you were dead." That's when it clicked. These 2 jackals had decided I was dead, or told themselves I was, and were clearing out my house. Later, I found out Ray had been telling the neighbors for days that I had passed away from the crash. He said he was helping the family settle the estate. Claimed I had no close family, even though Ben is right there, and that I had told him he could handle things. No funeral notice. No death certificate. Nothing. Just his big mouth and enough arrogance to think nobody would question him. Then, my greedy idiot cousin jumped at the chance. From what I heard later from the neighbors, he was even bragging about what he was going to buy with his share. I couldn't believe it. I still can't. My hands were shaking. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and called 911. While I waited, Ray actually tried to talk me down. Came up to me, hands out, fake smile on his face. "Now, let's just talk about this." "It's a misunderstanding." I stepped back. I could still barely breathe without pain, but anger gave me enough strength to yell at him. "Stay the hell away from me." When Officer Medina and Officer Frankel from Greene County Sheriff's Office pulled up, I pointed right at Ray and Ben. I didn't even have to explain much. Ray tried to spin a story about how I had given him permission to move my things. Ben just stood there, sweating through his t-shirt. The cops separated us. Took my statement. I showed them my hospital bracelet, my discharge papers. Told them about the accident, my stay in ICU. Told them about coming home to find these two stealing my life. Meanwhile, they searched the U-Haul. It was loaded with my things. My grandmother's old jewelry box. My kitchen appliances. Boxes labeled books and photos. These animals were going to steal even my memories. The cops arrested them both right there. Ray screamed at Officer Medina, "You're making a mistake. She's supposed to be dead." Ben cried like a little kid. She wasn't supposed to come back. It was pathetic. Turns out, Ray had a history, a record for petty theft back in the late 90s. That didn't help him when the DA decided to press serious charges: breaking and entering, attempted fraud, theft of property, and conspiracy. Ben got hit with the same list, though they tried to offer him a deal to roll on Ray. When I went to court, Ray actually had the nerve to look smug, like he thought he could still talk his way out of it. Ben couldn't even look at me. He sat there hunched over like a whipped dog. The trial was short. The evidence was overwhelming. Security camera footage from neighbors. The inventory lists they made. Text messages between them planning out what to steal first: my electronics, jewelry, and anything they could pawn quickly. Ray ended up getting 4 years in prison. Ben got a shorter sentence, about 18 months plus probation. I changed all the locks the day after the arrest. Got a full security system installed with cameras at every door and window. I even bought a big loud alarm system that would wake the whole damn block if anyone tried anything again. But the truth is, I don't sleep the same. I don't trust the same. And I sure as hell don't open my door without checking the cameras first. They thought I was gone. They thought they could steal my life. But I'm still here. And the look on their faces when the cops dragged them away will stay burned in my mind forever. After Ray and Ben were hauled off, I thought it was over. I really did. I thought the worst had passed. But a week later, I found out just how deep the betrayal went. I was sitting on my couch, trying to go through the mess they left behind. They had packed up half my house, drawers yanked out, closets emptied, kitchen cabinets ransacked. I was sorting through a box labeled photos when my doorbell rang. It was Mrs. Colden from next door. She looked nervous, glancing over her shoulder before stepping closer. She leaned in and whispered, "I need to tell you something. About Ray." I let her in, and we sat down at the kitchen table. She pulled out her phone and started showing me pictures. Photos she had secretly taken from her upstairs window during the days I was in the hospital. The photos made my stomach turn. Ray had been throwing parties at my house. Not 1 or 2 people, whole groups. Drinking, laughing, sitting on my furniture like they owned the place. One photo even showed Ben sitting at my kitchen table, raising a beer bottle like he was making a toast. I felt sick. They hadn't just stolen my things. They had lived in my house while I was clinging to life. Mrs. Cole then said she wanted to tell me sooner but was scared. Ray had been bragging that he had papers that said he was the new owner. That he could kick anyone out who questioned him. She said he even threatened Mr. and Mrs. Dawes 2 houses down when they asked too many questions. It was worse than I thought. This wasn't just theft. It was full-on takeover. I thanked her, barely holding it together, and called Officer Medina. When I handed over the photos, Medina's eyes darkened. He told me it strengthened the case, more proof of Ray's intent, more evidence of Ben's involvement. He said they would add charges. But then he hesitated. Said there was something else I needed to know. Apparently, while digging into Ray's background, the police found documents he had forged. Papers that he tried to file with the local clerk's office, false last will documents, making himself the heir to my property. Ray had literally tried to legally steal my house. If I had stayed in that hospital one more week, if I hadn't shown up when I did, I might have been locked out of my own home for good. They caught the paperwork before it was processed, thank God. But hearing that, it broke something inside me. I had trusted the system, trusted that people couldn't just take what wasn't theirs. Now I knew better. I thought the worst was over. But it wasn't. A few nights later, around 2 a.m., my dogs started barking like crazy. They're both usually pretty quiet, so when they lost their minds, I knew something was wrong. I pulled up the security camera feed on my phone. There, at the edge of my yard, was a dark figure, someone in a hoodie, crouching by my fence. I called 911 immediately, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear. The dispatcher kept me on the line while officers rushed over. They caught him just as he was trying to cut through the fence with wire cutters. It was one of Ray's buddies from the house parties, some lowlife named Derek. When the cops questioned him, he spilled, Ray had sent word from jail. Told his friends that there was cash hidden in the house that he hadn't gotten yet. Promised them a cut if they could find it. There was no hidden cash. But they thought there was. Turns out, during one of his drunk rants at the parties, Ray had bragged that I had thousands in cash stashed somewhere. Probably confused my emergency savings for something bigger. Now, thanks to him, I had strangers trying to break into my home at night, hunting for treasure that didn't even exist. That's when I realized, if I didn't fight back harder, they weren't going to stop. They thought they could finish what Ray and Ben started. They thought they could scare me out or rob me blind. They were wrong. Very wrong. After Derek got arrested, I knew things weren't over. The cops warned me it might get worse before it got better. They said people like Ray had a way of making their trashy friends come out of the woodwork. I installed even more lights around the property. Got a bigger, meaner security system. I even started keeping a baseball bat by my bed. For a while, things stayed quiet. Until I got a letter. It came about 3 weeks after Derek's arrest. It was from Ben. Postmarked from Greene County Jail. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside was a sloppy, handwritten letter. He said he was sorry. He said he was tricked by Ray. Said he didn't know I was alive, that Ray told him I was brain dead and not coming back. Said he thought he was helping me by cleaning out the house so no one else would rob it. It was all lies. I knew it the second I read it. Ben wasn't sorry for what he did. He was sorry he got caught. He wasn't writing because he missed me. He was writing because his lawyer told him it would look better if he could show remorse before his next court hearing. At the bottom of the letter, he had the nerve to ask me to write a letter to the judge saying he was a good man who made a mistake. I almost laughed. I almost ripped it up right there. But instead, I kept it. Made a copy. At the next hearing, I handed it to the prosecutor personally. Ben didn't get the lighter sentence he was hoping for. He cried when the judge sentenced him. Said, I thought family forgave each other. The judge didn't even flinch. Neither did I. But even after that, the trouble didn't stop. One afternoon in early December, about 2 months after coming home, I noticed my mailbox had been smashed in. Not dented, smashed clean off the post. I filed a police report. They said it might be random. I knew better. The next morning, someone threw a rock through my kitchen window. After that, I stopped feeling sorry. I stopped playing nice. They wanted a fight? Fine. I hired a private investigator. Cost me a good chunk of change, but it was worth every penny. The PI found out that even from jail, Ray was trying to stir up more trouble. He had been writing letters to some of his friends still hanging around town, telling them I had stash money hidden somewhere in the house. Telling them it was fair game because I owed him for stealing his new home. It made me sick. It made me furious. So I made a decision. I filed a restraining order not just against Ray and Ben, but against several of Ray's known associates. I also filed a civil lawsuit against Ray for damages. Emotional distress, property damage, theft, fraud, the works. And guess what? Because Ray was already convicted criminally, winning the civil case was like knocking over a drunk man. The court awarded me every penny he had, which wasn't much, but it included his pickup truck, some savings he had hidden away, and a few pathetic possessions. They also ruled that if he ever tried to contact me again or send anyone after me, he would face even more time in prison. Ray was furious. Ben was broke and disgraced. And their little circle of friends? They backed off real fast once they realized I wasn't some fragile, helpless woman they could push around. I wasn't done yet, though, because when I dug deeper, when my PI dug through Ray's trash of a life, I found something else. Something that made my blood run cold. Ray had a plan that went beyond stealing my stuff. He had been planning to forge a fake rental agreement to rent out my house while I was supposedly dead and collect rent money from strangers. He even had fake rental listings drafted up, posted them in local classifieds and online marketplaces, had emails back and forth with interested people showing off photos of my home. The only reason it never happened was because I got discharged and caught them mid-move. If I'd been in the hospital a week longer, there could have been random people living in my house, thinking they had signed a lease. It was bigger than I ever imagined. Ray wasn't just a greedy thief. He was a full-blown con artist. And Ben? He was just stupid and selfish enough to go along for the ride. I realized then, this wasn't just about my house. This wasn't just about my stuff. They were trying to erase me, pretend I never existed, sell off my life like it was just another pile of junk at a garage sale. But they failed, because I lived. And now it was time to make sure they paid for every single thing they did. After everything I learned, the parties, the fake rental plans, the threats, something inside me changed for good. I wasn't just angry anymore. I wasn't just hurt. I wanted justice. Real, complete justice. Not just the kind handed out in courtrooms, but the kind where every single person who touched my life in this mess felt the same fear and betrayal they gave me. It wasn't just about punishing them anymore. It was about taking back my life on my terms. I worked with my lawyer and the police to press full charges not only on Ray and Ben, but also filed small claim suits against Derek and 2 others who had trespassed on my property, using Mrs. Colvin's photos as evidence. I wasn't going to let them walk away, even if it was for a few $100s each. I wanted them dragged into court, embarrassed, forced to answer for what they did in front of a judge. It worked. Derek pled guilty and had to pay restitution. Another guy, Travis, tried to fight it and lost badly. Every time one of them got served court papers, it was a small piece of my life piecing back together. Meanwhile, Ben tried again to contact me from jail. This time through his mother, my aunt, who showed up at my door one Sunday afternoon crying, saying he was broken and scared and just a boy who made a mistake. I stood on my porch, looked her dead in the eyes, and said, "He's not a boy. He's a man who helped rob me while I was fighting for my life. He can stay scared." Then I closed the door in her face. She left sobbing. I didn't feel bad. I couldn't afford to feel bad anymore. I wasn't the same woman who had gotten into that car 2 months before. That woman trusted people. This one knew better. As for Ray, from inside prison, he filed a counter-lawsuit against me, claiming I defamed him by telling the neighborhood he was a thief. It was laughable. It never went anywhere. But it showed me something. He wasn't sorry. He never would be. Ray thought he could win no matter what. But I had one last card to play. Before the crash, I had set up a small local foundation with my parents' life insurance, just a little thing, meant to help elderly folks fix up their homes around the neighborhood. Nothing big, just grants here and there. After everything Ray did, I decided to rename it. I named it the Mullins Fund, in memory of greed and betrayal. And I made sure every single flyer, website listing, and newspaper announcement spelled out loud and clear exactly why it was called that. Everyone in town knew. Every neighbor. Every small business. Every cop. Every school teacher. Every grocery store clerk. Ray's name became a joke, an embarrassment. Even after he got out of prison 2 years later, nobody would hire him. Nobody would rent to him. Nobody wanted to sit near him at a bar. The man who tried to steal my life ended up with no life of his own. And Ben? Ben drifted from job to job, living in cheap motels, begging family members for help that never came. When he showed up once outside a Walmart where I was shopping, looking like he hadn't showered in weeks, he tried to talk to me. I didn't even slow down. Just walked past him like he wasn't there. Just like he had done to me when he decided my life was worth a couple $100 and a busted TV. As for me, I rebuilt. It wasn't easy. It wasn't clean. There were a lot of nights I sat awake, thinking about how close I came to losing everything. But I survived. I lived. And now my home is safer than ever. My life is mine again. And every time I walk past that old oak tree in my front yard, I remember, they thought I was dead. They thought they could bury me. But I came back stronger. And they're the ones who have to live in the graves they dug for themselves.